garden. Further up the coast, I've had a bit of flying. Extremely top end wind when I arrived, which was pretty well what was expected based on the F214s. F214s for later on in the day were predicting dropping wind and backing wind round to southeasterly, and that's pretty well what we got. Never really got truly southeasterly. And then after some good flying but not great soaring, very good technical flying, mainly on the west facing ridge at the end of the park, it favoured a bit more on the cliffs, but it's still quite crosswind. So along with my mate of mine to Seaton Cliffs, did some flying right next to the signposts, and it was okay, but top landable, but not exactly what you call brilliant, plus flying pretty heavy on a 20 size glider. So along to the main cliff launch, and this is for a soaring flight. Take a lot more time to lay out the glider at the top, because if you can't see the top path, you don't know if somebody's about to walk along. Could be somebody with pram. I have the advantage today of Ronnie being there, so he's acting as a spotter, so he can let me know if there's anybody about to appear at the top, which means I can just dump the wing there in the bundle and then just use the old skill set and the wind to tidy everything out. So it's very, very gentle settling surge. 99% of this is just harness control, occasional touch of the A's, occasional touch of the brakes, but predominantly it's all about harness control. And once you get the wing sorted out, you also don't want to be having the wing and the wind taking you off, so I use the wing to take me up to the top of the slope. Now I've got much better visual, there's no charging off, and this wing, being a fairly old one, actually could do with the lines being reset. It's got a tendency to hang back, so using a lot more delicate touches on these than they would normally. I'm happy with the situation. It's just tiptoe forward, sort of hovering there. Good checks of the airspace. Normally of course you'd be looking around a lot more, checking for other gliders, but with the camera you don't really need to tip it back and give the viewers motion sickness, and just tiptoeing off nice and smooth, no effort at all, and into flight. Now during this flight I'm kind of doing it deliberately, good look rounds, check the airspace. That's what you'd always be getting your students to do. Even when you know you're on your own, you want to be constantly checking. You're also looking for visual cues, changes in the wave pattern. Is there gusts of wind coming in? You're looking behind you at cornfields, etc., seeing if there's anything changing there. Birds soaring, all of these type of things. Also checking who's below you on the path and down on the beach. So always paying attention to everybody else. Their priorities keep everyone safe. with the shape of the wind versus bays here being about approximately 30-degree crosswind, so there's a significant headwind when I'm heading along to the right. You've also got to realise that on one side of the bay you're going to get relatively little lift and you're going to have a low ground speed, so you're burning more height. So it's actually necessary to fly much further out than would normally be, and then as you pass the bay headland for each bit you can then cut back in, top up your lift. But it's quite technical flying. The tide being out today and it's possible to walk along the bottom. You can also climb up at a couple of points, but mainly at the launch point and at the far end of the park. There's not that many bits you can get up, so you've got quite a few bailout options. Flying here later in the year and knowing the farmers very well, you've got the option of landing when it's stubble, but obviously at the moment with crops in the field you can only land on the path or on the bottom or in the park itself. So it's a bit more technical than it would usually be, but at least with the tide out it does give you that bottom landing option. On most days that I fly here when I'm flying the cliffs, the bit that I'm just landing at is very close to my normal takeoff point. Takeoff point's just slightly closer to where the poles are, so I would actually be standing 6 inches to say a foot from the cliff edge, and the wing would be up on this bank maybe 6 to 4 inches from the barbed wire fence, and effectively you almost just lift your feet, swing straight across the path under the wing. As usual, you're not trying to get the wing overhead, you're going under it. Then with a normal wind direction and the correct size glider for my weight, you can just take off, land on the poles, stand on the top, wait until best part lift, fly along, come back, land on the top of the poles, and then once you've gained some height there, if the beat conditions are good, maybe as little as 20-30 feet is often enough, then jump to the next bay, work the lift there, then jump along, and then you fly the whole cliffs. Someday it's good enough you can actually get round from the top path, just on the grassy bit next to the toilet block, and then we can fly all the way along. But most of the time when you're flying the cliffs with the right wind direction, you've got the takeoff next to poles, and just ahead of where you can see there's a bit of a outcrop. It's out of sight just now, yep, just left of the frame. That's the secondary takeoff option. So there's a couple of points there, but they're very technical launches because of course you've got the wing laid out in effectively the rotor sort of area at the top of the cliffs. But today it's nice flying, and I was flying and top landing here earlier, but it's not exactly rocketing you up, particularly with that size wing. So this is an X-ray 20 and I'd normally be flying a 24. So you don't really hear anything much on the camera, but I was chatting to this chap when flying earlier. So he's contre jour, taking photographs against the daylight, so I'm just waiting until he goes along to the pole, and once he's there and got his camera ready, I'm then going to do a fly along so he can get some better pictures.
Once you're at the pole, we'll take off.
And again, as usual, despite the fact I'm flying on my own, checking the airspace, so having good glances around, constantly keeping a good picture. Airspace is not just about other aircraft, it's, you know, is there somebody coming along the path? There could be somebody cycling. It wouldn't take them long to get along to next me, particularly as this bit on the cliff top path is a bit downhill. So you've got to be constantly looking around, constantly checking, making sure everybody else isn't inconvenienced, making sure everybody else is safe.
Check. Check.